127 years after being ejected from a whites-only carriage in South Africa, Mahatma Gandhi will become the first non-white person on British currency. Gandhi, who led India's freedom struggle against the British, will be commemorated by the British minting a coin after him amidst an interest in UK in recognizing contributions from minorities. British Chancellor has asked the Royal Mint Advisory Committee to mint a coin to commemorate Mahatma Gandhi. The British had jailed Gandhi, remember, several times during their rule. They also looted India, taking away precious jewels and treasures. And now those seem to be making amends by commemorating Gandhi, while India's prized possessions like the Kohinoor still though lie with the British. The big question remains, is this step enough or is it just a token move? Joining us, a special panel to look at this question. Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat, is live with us. Abhijit Chavra, history researcher, is also joining us live. Sumit, political analyst, also joins us live. And Manish Pandey, editor of ITV Network, is also live with us on the broadcast. Abhijit, to you first, quite significant, that Mahatma Gandhi, of course, led the freedom struggle against the British. And it's this very Mahatma Gandhi who is now being commemorated by the British in honor coin.
Well, my perspective of Mahatma Gandhi is a little different from what we've been taught in school. So I believe that the British are about 7 decades too late in honoring him. They should have honored him for his services in 1947 itself. So, so that's the thing. Right now, I would say it's the wrong time to honor somebody like Gandhi, because people are beginning to re-examine his contributions to the world, and his life is also being re-examined right now. And if we examine his life critically, there are many questions that are raised about his real motivations, about whether he was in a way racist against blacks and all that. So it's going to create more questions. It's going to raise more questions and answers. Right now, people are essentially pulling down statues of leaders who have been honored for a very long time in the US and in the UK as well. I am afraid that if they honor Gandhi, it's going to backfire upon them, because history and the recorded history gives us a different picture of Gandhi. And I can elaborate if you like.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Deepak Vora, come in here on what really is behind and what should be read as is behind the move of the UK to commemorate Mahatma Gandhi in this manner. It is significant because, as I said earlier, he's the first non-white person on British currency. So that in itself is quite a big deal. What can be read as behind this move by the United Kingdom, according to you, Deepak?
Thank you, Mr. Singh, for this chance to interact with these brilliant people. The first thing is the name Mahatma Gandhi is recognized in the 193 members of the United Nations. His birthday is celebrated as the International Day of Non-Violence, not of peace. Peace can come through various means, but non-violence is the surest way to establish peace. 69 countries released postal stamps last year, you might recall. 9 more were supposed to do so. 15 countries have issued coins on Mahatma Gandhi. And of course, 42 countries released postage stamps on the same day in 1969 on his 100th anniversary. So there's an amazing level of recognition of the Mahatma's role in shaping the international order and how we approach issues that are burning, that are important at any given point of time. Now, the Brits, who are supposed to, according to one calculation, of having taken away, drained out $43 trillion from India over 200 years, a trillion has 12 zeros. If they were to pay it back, it's their GDP for 3 years, which I'm sure that they are not going to give it back. But an important thing here, sir, is that there is a recognition now that this whole old colonial mindset has to go. It's history. The story that the Africans used to tell us, that the white man came carrying the Bible while I was working my land. I owned the land. The white man said, "Close your eyes, let us pray." So the poor African did. When he opened his eyes, he was holding the Bible. The white man owned the land. Now, this kind of thing we have seen happen, but the recognition, whether it's this black American person who died, the African American Lloyd George, or whatever his name, there is a movement all across the world to recognize the reality. History is not what was written by the people of the West, the 15% who lorded over the other 85% of the world's population. History is what actually happened. And I believe this is about time that the Mahatma's great contribution is recognized. He certainly is an international figure, better known across the world than anybody else of the 20th century.
So better late than never. That this has happened. Is that a perspective you agree with, Sumit? Better late than never. They should have done it in 1947, says Abhijit. He is the most well-known, one of the most well-known international icons for peace and non-violence, says Ambassador Bora. Sumit, your reading of why the UK has decided to do this now in 2020.
First of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. The point here is, you see, start from Uday, we were a colony of the British. It's just 75 years back. It is not 1700 years back, 75 years back. Then, ironically, something's happened. At that point of time, we were contributing rather 25% of the global GDP. They brought us to 2%. They looted Kohinoor, they looted everything what they could loot from us, and all the possible ways. And let's not talk about the Great Bengal famines and all what they entrusted on us, how many people got killed. But now why this is happening, Uday? What has changed today? Today, we are a much bigger economy than them. Today, India has seen the future of the market. Today, we have 800 million youth force. We are the fastest growing economy with a democracy. China is not an option. So when we see this, this is the what we call as the emergence of India in the global stage as a superpower, as the future democracy and economically. So I see this finally British after 70 odd years recognizing and what they could do is a very small gesture of to issuing a coin in the name of Mahatma. Well, as Mahatma is much beyond than coins, so Mahatma does not need any British recognition to be what he is. At the same time, Uday, he preached non-violence, he preached satyagraha, he preached protest, he preached democracy. He was against the violence all over. But let me remind you, Uday, with all that said, you know what? When you live in Europe, they say one thing about British. They say they looted the whole world and built London. London was never built. They looted the whole world and built London. That's what people in Europe talk about Britishers. But incidentally, having said that, there's one important point. I have one objection to it, the timing. One, it is late. Second, do not mix Mahatma with black and white. Mahatma is the Indian icon of Indian freedom. He is above black and white. Mahatma never fought for religion. He never supported black. He never supported white. He never supported yellow. His fight for freedom or his leadership does not have colors. So let's not paint Mahatma as a black leader. He is the resemblance of Indian struggle of freedom. He is our father of the nation, and please respect him for that. Do not mix your Black Lives Matter with a Mahatma and try to make it bigger. He is much above that, what Ambassador Vora rightly said. There are hundreds and hundreds of recognitions which have already come his way. A new coin is good. You have finally accepted that India is the place, and you have started with Mahatma. And in my opinion, there's a lot more coins, there are a lot of more stamps, and there are a lot more posters you're going to release. Just wait and watch, Uday. Good to know that we were their colony. Now they recognize us, what we are and what we deserve to be seen as.
Absolutely. Very valid points raised by you, of course. Let me take that across to Manish Pandey. Manish, decode this decision, behind the UK, of course, honoring Gandhi. Yes, he does deserve to be honored. We all know that. But is there more to it? Is there a reason why the UK is doing it, in this post-COVID world? Is there a reason why the UK is doing it currently when this new world order is building, when this anti-China sentiment is building? Can more be read into this decision of theirs to do it in 2020?
Uday, I heard the panelists, and for the first time, I differ on some with our panelists, while I agree on some. And let me tell you, as a student of history, after Lord Curzon took over and brought in place a conservation policy, no artifact was drained out of India. But as others have said, I can quote even the names of people like Lord Cornwallis or Hastings or Clive Lloyd and all, whose mansions were built around whatever they looted from India. And in fact, Clive has almost like from Plassey what he looted, he has a museum sort of thing. His house has been converted into a museum. So having said that, we should bifurcate these two issues, and whoever has written what you were writing about, these are two issues. One is nationalist issue, that they have looted us and all these things are going on about this, how many trillion of loot they have done in these many years, 200 years of colonial Raj. But the thing is that, first of all, Mahatma is not asking you for any recognition. He doesn't require a recognition. As a famous historian said, and we must know, one thing, as Abhijit was saying, that new history is coming, new interpretations are coming. We are trying to read Mahatma and his contributions in the new light, so it might get controversial at times and all. Okay, fine. Controversies always surround famous and the mighty. Okay, so we must, and in academia, if those controversies are there, they don't have anything to research about. So, but one thing I must tell all my panelists, you have to be a Gandhi to understand Gandhi. It takes a lot of courage to become a Gandhi. So Gandhi doesn't need one coin to get commemorated, as Ambassador said that he has already got it so many till his I think 100th year. So, but if you ask my frank opinion, this is a white man's border, which the white man always does in the name of freedom of expression, democracy, liberty, civil rights. And they do it. And for that, they have to also show their face to the world that this is what they are doing for this community, because they will always treat you as underdeveloped, underprivileged, underfringed, underinformed, and you need a white man's shoulder to get recognized. So it's up to you how you take it. We are actually trying to come out of this cage and the trap of this developing. We are actually in the transition stage between the underdeveloped and the developed. So we are actually getting very close to the developed one. And COVID has shown that we are no less than any top economy in the world. In fact, we have supported the top economies of during COVID. So we don't need this type of meeting 72 years after, 72 years after the death of Mahatma. Mahatma has enough to get recognized all over the world. And in fact, India outside is only known by 4 things today. It's Gandhi, Gita, Buddha, and Bollywood. So we have enough recognition. So we don't need a coin known in Britain, where we are actually all over the place. So that's my view, very frank one.
Okay, but you know, the big question also is, Ambassador Vora, and you of course welcome this with open arms, but will the UK follow it up? You know, will the UK also, adopt a more pro-India policy? There are some, of course, within the Labour, more so than the Conservatives, who do have anti-India views on certain issues, tend to be pro-Pak on certain, matters. But will the UK follow this up by a closer, sort of relationship with India? Also, will they now return, stolen treasures and artifacts? The Kohinoor, of course, is something that we've been wanting for long, but there are many other artifacts, treasures, and jewels which are still in the UK's jurisdiction.
Mr. Singh, as Mr. Pandya just said, that the Mahatma doesn't need recognitions or certificates from anybody. We are all familiar with that. He is an icon, an international icon. Whether Time votes him man of the millennium or not is irrelevant. We know who he is, the world knows who he is. Yes, certainly what you've said, that will there be a change in US policy to UK policy towards India? That will not be determined. This is not an indicator of any change in the policy, but a recognition that here is an icon who should be honored, even though he fought against us, because he was beyond the territorial boundary. He was a man for all time. And as Bertrand Russell said, sir, generations to come will scarcely believe that a man such as this, in flesh and blood, ever trod upon this earth. Now that is the Mahatma. And if I may just say something very facetious, and if they are using his bust on a coin, and if the British economy collapses after Brexit, they are welcome to use the rupee. We have many that have the Mahatma's image on it. I apologize, I was just being facetious about this. The important thing is that the recognition has come from a country that had every reason to resist it, because we began the process of the breakup of the British Empire. Remember, the empire on which the sun never set, because even God didn't trust the Englishman in the dark. I rest my case.
Okay, Abhijit, come in here. On, of course, as you said, you have differing views on honoring Gandhi currently, etc. Why then do you believe the UK has done it?
The UK has done it for internal reasons. Right now, there is this Black Lives Matter current that's sweeping through the world, especially the Western world, the European countries, the white people. So the UK is essentially doing it as a token gesture that we are
Because
also.
the UK wants to recognize minorities, yes.
It wants to recognize minorities. It wants to essentially appease the minorities within its jurisdiction. That we are also essentially following the US in recognizing people of color, what they call people of color. So it's just a token gesture. It costs them nothing. We don't need any recognition from the UK or from any other country. We know what we are. We know what our history is. What we have to do is we have to do it ourselves. We don't need recognition from other people. What we should do is we should ourselves honor those whom we feel are our the founding fathers of our nation, the great people of our nation. That should be done from within. We don't need recognition from other countries, especially the country that looted us, plundered us, and reduced us to complete absolute penury. I mean, our GDP contribution was at least a third of the entire world's GDP before the British came. And like Ambassador Vora said, by the time they left, it was less than 2%. So they entirely destroyed this country's economy. They destroyed the life expectancy of this country. When they left, it was 32 or 33. So you can imagine what they did to the country. And putting Mahatma Gandhi on a coin is not going to make up for any of that. And like the other panelists said, there is no question of them even trying to return any of the, or paying us any reparations for what they've plundered from us. Essentially, their lifestyle and their GDP is a consequence of their plunder that they did from India over the centuries. So it is time for us to recognize these facts. And that is what's most important right now for
Okay,
us.
that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. But Sumit, can this also be read, as the UK acknowledging, the fact that they were wrong? Is this also the British guilt coming out? That they were wrong. We've seen, of course, apologies over Jallianwala Bagh as well. And is this another, a sign that the UK obviously is acknowledging they were wrong, is acknowledging that they did loot India, that they did do injustice with India for many years, and also with Mahatma Gandhi, who of course was also discriminated against by not of course Britishers per se, also Britishers, but also South Africans. So is this an acknowledgement of the injustice, carried out to people of color, carried out to Indians, and particularly those of the subcontinent by imperialist powers for so many years?
Okay, the point here is that's why I started my argument with that we were their colony. They were our so-called alleged masters. And from 25% of our global GDP, when they left, it came to 2%. And life expectancy and all was shattered. They shattered the country. They looted the country. I don't want to use any other word except they looted the country, because colonies were a ground where you will siphon out everything. You will not give them anything. Now, instantly, Uday, after 70 years, what made them realize that today they need to, though Gandhiji does not need any recognition, he's above all this, they need to issue a coin. This is a tipping point, sir. This is a tipping point where they recognize, where a master recognizes कि जो मेरा नौकर था या जो मेरी कॉलोनी थी वो मुझसे बहुत बड़ा हो गया. Today they said we are a bigger economy than you. You are not, from GDP, from PPP. Then there was an argument they are a bigger economy from us, from the service sector. Even we have taken over them from the service sector. Now you look at medicine, you look at pharma, you look at any sectors, we are much bigger than them. They're growing at 2%, will grow at 8 to 10% in the future to come. They can never become a $5 or $10 trillion economy. We will be in 10 years a $10 trillion economy. And especially with Mr. Rishi Sunak in the picture now, which was also contributed to this, it's a lot of sweat, Rishi, Uday, it's a lot of बहुत दिल जलता होगा उनको ये coin issue करने में. See the political ramification of it. You are issuing the coin of a person who smothered your Raj, who dismantled your Raj, and who took the biggest chunk of the land mass from your Raj, that is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Now today, with the changing world order, with the changing scenarios, you are compelled, I would wanted to use the word compelled, to issue a coin. I see them for the first time, that arrogance, that imperial arrogance of British is brought to a level, जैसे मोदी जी ने कहा था, हम किसी से आंख झुका के बात नहीं करते, आंख उठा के बात नहीं करते, but आंख मिला के बात करते हैं. Today that scenario has come. This coin symbolizes that we are not higher or lower, at least we are equals. That colonial master, white man, yellow, white skin is gone. And Uday, last point, why I want to reiterate one more time. Mahatma Gandhi's struggle was not for whites, blacks, or yellows. He fought for the freedom of India, and let people in the world know, do not try to mix Mahatma Gandhi with Black Lives Matter. At that point of time, he only mattered for India, and the Indian lives matter at that point of time. He's a much bigger icon than any white, black, yellow, or grey all put together.
Absolutely. And Ambassador Bora, obviously, this does show also what India's position is going to be in this post-COVID world. It shows an Indian ascension to, of course, the superpower status that we, greatly deserve and have deserved for many years. But it does show, the direction now of this changing world and what India's position is going to be in.
There can be no two opinions about that when you have a PPP economy of $12 trillion, when you have 340 million kids in your schools and colleges, when you have a service sector that is better than any other in the world, when your brain power is universally recognized, leading to that joke that if President Donald Trump were to invite the top 12 CEOs of American companies for breakfast, he'd have to serve them samosas and pakoras because they're all Indian. All this is the recognition of the inevitable, inexorable, unstoppable rise of India. A reference was made to the white man's burden. I entirely agree. It's the white man's follows an 8-letter word. The first 4 are bull. You can add the rest. That's what the white man is reduced to now. Now, India is rising. There is no way that it can be stopped, sir. It's there for all to see. This is a recognition, if I may use the term recognition with permission from Mr. P. It's a recognition that the world is changing, realities are changing, taking me back to Bob Dylan's song in the 1960s, which was so popular, I used to sing it in college. The times, they are a change.
Absolutely. Manish, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I will just add to what Abhijit said, that rather than going into this much of detail, we are bringing like 2 issues to just take it as a plain, simple recognition, which has come maybe at a time when there may be some political demands of the entire Western world. And in that, the rights, civil rights, liberties, democracy, these are the words they play around.
We don't see any icon of China being honored in a similar manner, do we?
Yeah.
Pakistan.
No one even, because if that is the case, someone may be going against anti-Xi or Jinping regime and all, or Freedom for China movement, and that guy should have been also recognized. But having said that, Black Lives Matter is also coming from a lot of political necessity which the entire Western world is facing. So there I see as a plain, simple recognition which has some compulsion from the back. You have to see that which elections England is moving towards, or maybe they have to just build up their constituency. There is a whole lot of Indian constituency there. No Pakistani, by the way, has come up in this list. There may be many. They have contributed in their own way to England also, but we are not got. So we don't need. In fact, they need to give this recognition for their own sake.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.